Hi YouTube, Darth here. This is Yes or No, a weapon review series where I give a clear and concise answer as to what weapons you should be using in Battlefield 4. Today's weapon is the M60-E4, also known as the Pig, introduced in Battlefield 4 in the Second Assault DLC. It's one of the most iconic US machine guns and a personal favorite of mine across many different games. But how does the Pig fare in Battlefield 4? Should you be using the M60-E4? Yes or no? Yes, a definite yes in fact. The M60-E4 is the best of the 7.62mm LMGs at getting firepower on target. It gets even better in the hands of a disciplined player. Its ability to deliver firepower on an enemy beyond 10 meters rivals the Ace-23, and it's a lot easier to control than that weapon. But what makes it so good? Let's have a look. The immediate attraction of the M60-E4 is a 33 max damage, 21.6 minimum. This means on normal core that only 4 bullets are required to kill an enemy up close, and at most that only increases to 5. It doesn't have the lowest time to kill of the LMGs, but it boasts the best accuracy of the 7.62s, which is my next talking point. I should preface this as the M60 is not the most accurate LMG, but it is definitely the most accurate of the 7.62mm LMGs. The recoil pattern is 0.4 up, 0.35 left, and 0.25 right, which isn't spectacular, but the real gift is the first shot recoil multiplier of 1. This means that there is no difference between the first shot and the second shot in terms of upwards recoil. That's crazy. It means there is literally no penalty for tap firing the Pig. Given that the old taparoo is a perfectly viable and often necessary tactic for getting minimal spread on your M60-E4. With a rate of fire of only 570 rounds per minute, a rather tame recoil, and what amounts to no first shot recoil multiplier, the M60-E4 is probably one of the most predictable weapons in the game. Keeping the weapon on your target isn't a drawn out affair either, as it only requires a maximum of 4 to 5 bullets to kill an enemy. The drop-off of the M60-E4 is quite drawn out, starting at 8 meters and not fully dropping off until 75 meters. All the way out to 55 meters it remains a 4-shot kill, and at that point maxes out at 5 bullets to kill. This is one of the strengths of the 7.62mm damage model, and one that helps keep the M60-E4 relevant at a wide swath of ranges from 10 meters and beyond. So the major advantages of the M60-E4 are power and the ability to dish it out at ranges beyond CQB. Its ammo capacity is middling for an LMG at 100 rounds carried in its box magazine. This is a slight advantage over magazine-fed LMGs, but not quite as good as 5.56mm box magazine LMGs, which contain 200 rounds. But before getting to other topics, let's look at what's not so great about the M60-E4. So here's the big drawback of the M60-E4, the reloading time. It's a game-topping 7.8 seconds for both the short and long reload. That's more than enough time for enemies to empty their weapons, reload, kill you, you get revived, and they reload to kill you again. Suffice to say, you'd better have found a safe place when you go to feed the Pig. Like most other LMGs, there are major penalties to moving and shooting with the M60-E4. There's an additional 2 degrees of minimum spread when aiming down sights, which will pretty much guarantee your bullets go just about everywhere but where you're aiming. Thankfully, this can be controlled by discipline and stopping to shoot when you're aiming. Those are the primary detractions of the M60-E4. No need to use a bipod as long as you can exercise some self-control. And that's one of the primary differences between LMGs and BF3 and BF4, the ability to be used outside of the bipod. The biggest change between the two games is that the starting spread of the LMGs in BF4 is essentially half of what it was in BF3, and the upwards recoil is far more tame. Which is pretty nice because BF4 bipods suck something awful to get placed consistently. But what puts the M60-E4 over top of its competitors? There are plenty of other LMGs that have faster time to kill. Well, I ran the numbers against some likely options, the M240B, PKP, and AWS. Under 12 or so meters, the M60-E4 is nothing special, and you'd probably prefer the M240B. But as the range gradually increases, the M60-E4 becomes more and more the winner. Keep in mind that this is based on probability of hitting a shot, which with the M60-E4 is substantially better at range than its competitors. That's not to say a lucky M240B couldn't beat the M60 at all these ranges, it's just not favored in the odds. You could equalize this quite a bit with a bipod, but again, the bipod placement in BF4 is not just finicky, it's limiting and dangerous. Let's talk about how to control the M60 instead. Without a bipod, you're going to need to find a way to wrangle the Pig. It's not a very surprising weapon, as its first shot recoil multiplier is exactly 1. The recoil pattern is a modest 0.4 up, 0.35 left, and 0.25 right. That's going to take the weapon up and to the left. It's a pretty simple matter to just pull down and to the right to compensate. The weapon isn't going to fight very much, particularly thanks to the fact that the rate of fire keeps it pretty naturally under control. It's not a hose though, and the longer you fire, the more inaccurate your shots will become. Bursting with the M60-E4 is a relatively easy task as well, as you can count out 4 to 5 round kill shots somewhat more easily than higher RPM weapons. But you'll still get a fair amount of spread from even this controlled behavior. Because it has no first shot recoil multiplier, there's really no penalty for over-tap fire in the M60-E4. You'll eat it on time to kill penalties by artificially lowering the rate of fire, but you can make up some accuracy, particularly on longer range targets. The key is to remain still while firing. As I was saying, first and foremost you'll want to make sure that you're stationary when firing the M60-E4. It really underperforms when you're on the move, so it's not the strongest weapon in CQB or as a run and gun style weapon. You'll do best when you can get yourself to cover and take your shots on your enemies. The weapon itself will do best on maps where you can take advantage of its ranged benefits, so maps like Lockers and Pearl Market are not necessarily ideal. You can make the pig work on those maps, but you'll be at a noteworthy disadvantage at close range. For those close quarter situations, you can make one of a couple of decisions. You could try covering your back with claymores, you could go for headshots, go for hip fire, which is not very good with the M60-E4 and more of a coin toss, or you could go for the secondary route. I don't think the pig is incapable of keeping up in CQB, it's just not going to beat many other options. Another thing I noticed with the M60-E4 is the tendency of players to gravitate towards your position. You fire slow and you make a distinctive noise with the M60. This tends to draw a lot of attention from chasers. You can use this to your advantage by setting up claymore traps or baiting the enemy straight into your line of fire. And finally, the M60 really is the king of tap fire. If you find yourself missing shots or if they're going errant, just add a little bit more tapping. You'll drop some DPS but gain more hits on your target. Let me just start by saying that adding an angle grip is probably the worst idea ever with this weapon. You take that sweet benefit of having a completely predictable, non-existent first shot recoil multiplier and then make it unpredictable again by having the first shot differ in its recoil pattern than all the following shots. It's fractionally less upwards recoil for unpredictability and the opportunity cost of having a better grip. That being said, what did the top users mostly stick to? Well, they used the RDS, a laser or no accessory, the stubby grip, and a heavy barrel, which is the correct choice with this weapon. Let's talk about why I ended up using something similar. For my sight, I ended up using the HT33. You're going to notice that with any sight, the M60's front sight is going to be present. There are some people that find this annoying enough to petition DICE to remove it. I say, toughen up soldier, this isn't some fancy accessory you can have your way with. This is a weapon of war and it's big and ugly and sometimes you'll lose your target in the housing, but just keep on shooting. As for why I chose the HT33, I find that the hollow sights do particularly well on the M60 and my favorite happens to be the HT33 as it seems to be the least intrusive. For a surprise, I actually ended up using no accessory of any kind. The M60 honestly doesn't suffer for it, and if you're superstitious that your laser is going to give you away more than help, you can leave it off. Honestly, if I were to play with this weapon again, I might try the magnifier or perhaps the laser. I typically don't run higher magnifications except on weapons where they have low first shot recoil multipliers, and the M60-E4 has the lowest. Now for the barrel, I chose the heavy barrel. The initial spread is relatively high even when standing still, so there's a pretty good benefit to throwing on the heavy barrel as it will reduce the spread from 0.3 degrees to 0.15. There's also a nice assist to on-the-move accuracy, but it's still not much of an option for the weapon. I paired that high accuracy barrel with the stubby grip to help reduce some of the spread increase per shot. You're not going to be ripping a whole ton of bullets out of the M60-E4 given its low rate of fire and few bullets required to kill, but the stubby grip will help dial in the accuracy benefits of the weapon. As I said earlier, the angle grip isn't an option, and you could try the ergo of vertical grips, but with a little discipline even those wouldn't be required. The M60-E4 is one of the best LMGs in the game and it's the most accurate of the 7.62mm heavy-hitting LMGs. It's not the best directly in the face of enemies, but it's a really solid support weapon, so again, a definite yes. If you find yourself liking the M60-E4, you might also want to try the PKP. I find that the PKP is rather good at mid-range due to its balanced left-right deviation and you pick up a bit more damage per second at close range. Additionally, the PKP's reload is about 2 seconds shorter. If the belt-fed 7.62mm LMGs aren't your thing, you could always grab the RPK. It's a high-accuracy, high-damage platform that performs exceptionally in most of the same ranges as the M60-E4. It just doesn't have nearly as much ammo in reserve. That's it for this episode of Yes or No. If there's something you think I missed, or if you have a particularly different take on the M60-E4, please let me know in the comments below. If there's a weapon you'd like to see reviewed on this series, leave a comment indicating which weapon. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.